Welcome to the Win, Make, Give podcast. Chad Hyams here. Bob Stewart over there. Bob, how you doing today?
I'm back. Chad, I'm back.
So excited. I'm so excited. I've been so lonely. I've had some great interviews while you were gone, yet so lonely. I'm so excited to have you back.
Do you ever, when I'm gone, do you ever think about just doing an episode by yourself?
Yes. 100 times over. Yet I don't want to do that to our audience. If they want to hear me by myself, they should check out the Achieve Your Apex podcast, which is part of the Win, Make, Give network, where I take lessons from my best-selling book, Achieve Your Apex, plus some more, because I've actually gone all the way through the book. I'm bringing more training, more lessons there. So if they want to hear just me, I figure they can join me for 10-minute episodes on Achieve Your Apex podcast. I will leave Win, Make, Give for us together and the interview opportunities. Although, yes, Bob,
I feel very honored. Very honored.
I think about it. Bob, here is something that has been, I don't know, it's come up a bunch. We've done a bunch of interviews lately that felt like culture was kind of that conversation that we were having with people, how to build that culture. It's one of those buzzwords I'm really over. One of the things I remember hearing a lot was when it comes to competition, you have to be really careful with it. And our audience, a lot of people enjoy competition and a lot of people use it. I mean, heck, his name's on the podcast, and Ben Kinney loves to use competition to inspire and motivate and challenge people. Yet nothing kills culture as fast as competition can if it's done wrong. Because all of a sudden, Bob, if Ben came forward with some challenge to you and I about the Win, Make, Give audience, and I want to see this and the best interviews and the more subscribers or something, now it becomes competitive between us, and one of us ends up either winning and the other one therefore ends up resenting or losing, or one of us does really well and the other one doesn't really care, and resentment comes into it because it's not a team. And I was really fascinated with the threat of competition. So I kind of sat down, did some research while you were gone, did some online look-in, did some ChatGPT questioning, and came up with 6 lessons that'll help us turn rivalry into results so that we don't have the competition that just kills culture.
So this is health. We're going to focus on how do we have healthy competition? Like, how do we make sure that competition is not leading to the resentment or the frustrations that you were mentioning?
Yeah, the only time it's good to have not healthy competition, I guess, in that sense, is when you've got your team coming together to compete against an outside force, right? When
we want to put them out of business. We want them demoralized. And
correct. We want to break the restaurant that's across the street from us. We want to be the coffee shop that survives. We want to be the Super Bowl champions by beating that other team. Yet you can be sure the Chiefs, the Patriots, the teams that have been winning a bunch lately in the sports of recent, they might have had some healthy competition within the team, yet it was the healthy type, not the who's going to be the star player, because then you get Shaq and Kobe saying, I don't want to give you the ball. It's about me. And what ended up happening to what could have been one of the greatest dynasties in the sport, the two of them, became adversaries due to it. So that's what I want to talk about, Bob, when we're diving in today. 6 lessons to turn rivalry into results. Lesson number 1. Okay. And lesson number 1, Bob, and I sent you over what we're going to talk about. So folks, Bob's got some notes in front of him. But lesson number 1 is...
I'm like 2 days off vacation, Chad. You think I looked at the notes?
I'm taking it easy.
I'm going off the top of the head here.
Off the top of the head. Those are sometimes the best. Lesson number 1, compete with yourself first. So go off the top of your head, Bob. When I'm talking about that, what are you thinking if we want healthy competition? And lesson 1 is that you have to compete with yourself first.
Look, I think I would, like in any competitive field, it's my belief that you are most of the time like trying to do better than you did yesterday, Chad.
Yes.
You're trying, like if I'm, we go to health, right? If you're running that mile, you're gonna gauge yourself against what you did yesterday. If you're doing the push-ups, or lifting the weights, right? You're gauging against the weight that you were doing yesterday. And I think, like when I think about business, right? We are look, that person's life and where they are at in their business sets up for this number. A lot of times those things, it's different. Like that person's life is different than mine. And so comparing myself to them and competing against them might not be the right idea. I might just need to see if I can get a little bit better than I was yesterday. Right. So I just think there's a lot of power around the first place you look for competition is to yourself. Now, Chad, I don't know if everybody's heart is wired that way necessarily. I think you and I are both wired like in that fashion, right? Where we are able to go and look and see what we did yesterday and try to go beat it or want to go beat it. I don't necessarily know that everybody is. You coach a lot more people than I do. Like, are most people wired this way to have kind of a natural desire to want to compete against the human I was yesterday?
No. Most people are wired to beat other people or concede before it even begins. And you know that person, right? And you've even talked about it, the challenges that the organization Place has put out, that you can see the numbers of there's 50% of the people who just say, I'm not even going to compete, right? Most people actually back away from competition because there's usually someone that is highly competitive. And because of that, everyone else says, well, I can't run as fast as that one, or I can't succeed like that. So I'm not even going to play, Bob.
So in a lot of cases, unless you're willing to compete with yourself, you're likely not even going to get on the field.
Correct. Right. And that is a huge, as you say it, right? That is a huge thing of competing with ourselves and just being better than yesterday. And there's so many ways to track it. Right? I use the tonal. It's on the wall behind me. People have seen it in other podcasts. Okay. When you finish a workout, if you've done that workout before, the first thing tonal says to you is, congratulations. Here's your new numbers. Here's how you beat the last one, right? You lifted 86 pounds more. You did it in 14 seconds faster. And, people will be like, well, that doesn't sound like a lot. It's like, hey, progress is progress. I don't have to crush myself. I have to beat myself. Right. And for you, it's Bob, it's sometimes not easy to be able to say, did I beat myself being a dad from who I was yesterday? Right? Did I give the kids just that extra? And at some point you're going to lose, sadly, because there's always going to be, at some point, I'm not going to be able to lift anymore. And I might actually have to lower the weight. At some point you're going to you went away for a week and you weren't there for your kids. So you lost at being a great dad compared to how you were the day before you left when you supercharged being a dad, knowing you weren't going to see them. Little things are going to happen like that. Yet, can we always compete with ourselves? That's the first and truly the only place we can ever compete and find power in competition.
My son, I've talked about his little basketball journey a bunch. When we use this application called Dribble Up. And it's so we put it on this iPad. There's like a special ball, and the iPad tracks the ball, and he does the dribble drills. And
I've seen the commercial.
Yeah, you've seen me post it. And he tries to hit the targets on the iPad, and Chad's the only one seeing me fake dribble between my legs. But when we first started, they have like these leaderboards on there, and he would get like. He's, I think at that time, 6 years old. He's probably competing on these leaderboards against 12, 13-year-old kids that have been doing this dribble up thing for 5 years, right? And he'd get in there and he'd get done doing one of the sessions and it'd take him to the leaderboard and he'd be like 745th. And he would get like really frustrated initially by it, Chad.
Yep.
He'd be like, what? And then there's another kind of section on that reporting screen where he could look at his progress. And so
right.
For probably, I don't know, the first 6 months, we never looked at that thing again. We just looked at, okay, what are you doing on this thing versus what you did yesterday? Like, can you get 5 more dribbles in that 60-second period than you got in yesterday? And it's, it was fascinating to watch a 6-year-old go from this, like, I'm never going to be anything because I'm 745th to like, oh, hey, I'm better than I was yesterday. That mindset for him has been huge, right? And now he every once in a while peeks over there and he's 70th but so initially he didn't need that look at the rest of the competition. He just needed to be competing with himself.
Yeah. And it's the same thing. I remember Drew Lee, our friend Drew, competed with me one day on the Peloton. We both were doing a ride and he says, oh, I'm going to crush you. At the end of it, Drew will tell you he was a puddle behind the bike, and I was just like calmly riding and left him in the dust. Yet there's that leaderboard. And you look and you realize that you're 19,000 out of 20,000 riders. Yet if you can look at you versus you, you'll see, hey, wait, I put out one more watt than I did yesterday doing a similar ride or whatever that's going to be. Leaderboards, I mean, another program that Brivity that you work with a lot, Bob, they make a big deal about the leaderboards. Folks, yes, you can look at them. Just look at yourself on them as much as anything. That's the way to grow. Okay, lesson number 2, Bob. You have to recognize when competition goes past the tipping point and becomes toxic. What do you think top of mind stuff when I give you that next subject?
Man, here's where I think it could become toxic potentially, Chad, is when we're focused on like the outcome as the only result of that competition versus like the potential growth we experience during it, right? So I see this quite a bit, and where it's like, we had the competition, there was one prize, that person wins it, and the other 8 people that didn't win it feel like they lost. The reality is, because like a great example, or maybe a great kind of showcasing of this is, you mentioned these challenges we do at our organization Place, and one of them is we challenge people to make like 5,000 dials, Chad, and it happens over 75 days or whatever. It's like this long period of time. But what we found is simply them getting in the game, that they're going to have 10 times the activity of people that, to our point last time, that don't even step on the field, right? They're like, I'm not going to do this. So now those people didn't win. A lot of them don't win. They don't complete the challenge, but simply by signing up for it, right, they become like 10 times what they were before. But some of them walk out of there with this like toxic feeling like they lost because they were focused on the outcome, which is I didn't get to 5,000, versus being focused on like the growth they experienced simply by signing up to do it. So maybe like I see a lot of times where it's like I didn't win, and like there can be some negative connotations around that, when I think if you were looking at like, what did you do? Like, did you grow as a person? Did you stress your capabilities? Did you do something more than you thought was possible? To me, that's still winning. So maybe it becomes toxic when we're focused on the wrong outcome.
Yeah, you'll notice it, folks, because sabotage becomes something you see happen. You'll see someone attempting to sabotage other people. Ooh. You'll see jealousy start showing up. You'll see the same person wins again and again and again and again and again. And that makes competition become a little toxic. And we have to recognize when that happens, because we have to be able to shift gears in that world. And
one of the things Ben does on that, it's not the same competition every time, because the 5,000 dials, it leans towards a certain type of personality. So next month it's going to be something different, right? It's going to be, how many contracts do we get signed, or which is a different skill set. So a lot of times when we're introducing competition organizationally, we are thinking about varying it a little bit so we do get different outcomes. It's not the same person that gets up there in front of the class at the end of the day.
Teamwork makes the dream work, right? Think sports. How many times do we see a team do poorly because the stars on the team want to be the success, right? And it's not until you get that group that truly comes together that says, hey, it's not about me. There's no I in team, right? And they truly believe that. Those are the teams that finally move on to the success opportunities that are out there. All right, Bob, number 3, I want to throw at you and get your take on. Okay. Learn from your rivals if you want to create healthy competition.
So I'm gonna take a bit of I'm gonna pick at one of the words in there for just a second before I go. Okay. Rivals, because to me, rivals means like somebody on the other team. But a lot of times we're having healthy competition inside of our own team. And so that person's a rival. A rival to me is anybody I'm competing against. It's not necessarily somebody on the other team. It might be somebody on my own team I'm competing against. So that being said, yes, we track everything around here. And so I can go in a lot of times, Chad, when I'm like consulting with a team or something, I'll go in and I'll look at one of these reports. There's a report I key on all the time. In our business, it's one of the most important, but it's like, it's our appointment report. And essentially what it says is, how many people do I need to call to talk to a certain number of people to find an appointment? And I know all those numbers. And so I'm always on the hunt for somebody doing the work, but not getting the results.
Yep.
And one of the things I'll tell them, and I can see on the team who's doing the same amount of work, but getting like outsized results. And I'm constantly telling Jim, let's say Jim's the one that's having a hard time. I'm saying, hey, Jim, Chad does it really well. And yes, you're competing against Chad, but why don't you go listen to a couple of Chad's calls? Right? Why don't you go learn from what Chad is doing? Because he's doing it better than you. Look, Ben has just taught us this over the years, right? Like we don't have any. We have a funny little, R&D we call it around here. Rip off and duplicate, right? We're not too proud. Our egos aren't too big to think that we know how to do everything the best. And there's likely somebody in that lane that I'm competing in who's doing it better than me. Like if you're doing it the best in the world, congrats. You probably don't need to be listening to this podcast. But there's likely somebody out there doing it better than you. Like go see what they're doing.
Apple and the Samsung phones, right? I mean, one launches, they did this. The other one rips it off and says, we need to add that to the next one, right? And then they do something, we need to add that. Or basically when we were younger, Bob, Burger King and McDonald's were it, right? Wendy's, all these others were they were just like little ones. It was Burger King and ripped off, duplicated, right? They had Ronald McDonald, so they came out with the King, right? And then they did this, so they came out with that, and back and forth.
And the reality is, if you look at any of those scenarios, like that competition is driving both of those companies higher.
Correct.
Right? Our phones are both getting better
from that. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Learn from the people you are competing with because it'll help with healthy competition. And folks, share with the people you're competing with. Ben, for years, Bob, we used to have a product called the Internet Marketing Specialist Designation. And there are probably some people on this call who remember IMSD, okay? And I remember people coming to Ben all the time and saying, I can't believe you're telling us all this stuff. Like you guys are telling us what you're doing. And Ben's answer was, one, I know only 3% of you will actually do it. Yet more importantly, it was go ahead and do it. It's going to force me to advance and be better because you're doing what I was doing, which will make me go do something more. So folks, in Bob's example, if the person on your own team is the one who's beating you and quote unquote your rival in this situation, go learn from them and be willing to share, because if they start to get better, you're going to go get better to stay ahead of them.
By the way, something early in my career, I didn't realize that people will share with you what they're doing. If you sincerely ask somebody coming from a place of just interest, Chad, like, wow, Chad, you are really good at setting appointments. Like, you're the best on our team. I would love to learn from you some of your secrets. Like, 99 out of 100 people are going to be honored to share, Chad. And early on in my career, I thought, no, everybody's going to keep all those things secret, but they don't. They're willing to share for the two reasons you said. One, most of the people they share with aren't going to do anything with it anyway. And two, it forces them to up their game. So the next time I come back to them, they've got something new to share with me.
6 lessons for healthy competition, Bob. Number 4, harness competition for team growth. Okay. Yeah. A leader's job, folks, is to set up competitions to encourage improvement, not rivalries, like a coach on a team, like Ben and Chris do in the organization there. Talk to me a little bit, Bob, about harnessing that competition, how you've seen it show up or where you've seen it show up to help the team come together and grow.
Look, you could make whatever the competition needs to be, right? Here's what I would say, though. There has to be a clear scoreboard for it, Chad. Okay. There has to be a scoreboard. Like, we are all hardwired to expect a scoreboard when competing.
Yes.
right? Except for if you played YMCA basketball, they don't keep score. But I had this kid on my team that would keep score. He always knew what the score was. Like, but
And
yeah,
Bob, to that point though, the scoreboard doesn't list everybody, right? It doesn't list every player it lists the team. So it's not saying, oh, Shaq has this many points, Kobe has this many points, this has this many points. The scoreboard said at that time, the Lakers have this many points, bringing the team together.
Sure, if my team's competing against another team.
Yes.
But if we are creating healthy competition amongst our team, then the scoreboard would, show who's doing what on the team. Here, I have a really fascinating story about this. So you can kind of consider the team a little bit larger here, but one of our sales associates inside of our organization, he's actually a part of my mother's team, Chad.
Okay.
And so this was like, when was this? This was a while ago. It was October of 2023. My mother comes to me, and she works inside of our organization, and she said, hey, we've got these scoreboards, and it'll show somebody that they're like in first or second or 50th or whatever across all of plays. Well, there was one individual, I'll give him a shout out. His name's Dara. And Dara, he wanted to be number one for open houses at the entire company. And it was October, and he was in number 2. And we don't show people what they need to do to get to number 1. So it's every day he'd come in, and every week he was doing 3, 4, 5 open houses because he wanted to be number 1. And so she called me. She said, hey, will you do me a favor? Like, can you look up and see how many open houses like the number 1 person has, so that Dara knows like the number he needs to track down? And I said, well, help me understand something. Like, why does it matter? And she's like, he wants to be number 1. And I'm like, so he's not doing this to like grow his business. He literally is just doing it to be number 1. And she's like, well, yeah, kind of. And I'm like, well, is it growing his business? She's like, yeah, of course it is. I'm like, all right, like, yeah, I'll go find it. So I go and I find it. I dig it up. I have one of our developers dig it up. What had happened, Chad, is one of our developers had keyed in that he'd done 10,000 open houses when we were testing the reporting functionality. And so Dara was literally chasing a ghost. But we figured out, my mom and I he probably did like twice as many open houses as he would have done. Yep. Simply on this competitive nature inside of this guy. Look, not everybody's going to do that, because she's got 3 other people on her team that could also see that and weren't trying to do it the way Dara was. But I'm telling you guys, healthy competition amongst the team where there's a scoreboard will drive certain individuals to do outsized effort if they can see that there's somebody in front of them.
That's an excellent point, and a great way to harness that competition for that team to grow, chase each other, right? Whatever that ends up looking like. All right, lesson 5, Bob. Fuel, don't burn out. Okay, fuel, don't burn out, because competition should energize you, not exhaust you. And again, there are people who it drains. That's why they just throw their hands up and say, I'm not even going to get on the field. I'm not going to play. I'm not going to participate. You have to know, and I'm a huge Tour de France. Well, I'm a huge cycling fan. Tour de France is just the race everybody knows. These guys know when to race, when to hide behind somebody else and draft, when to, push and challenge and all that stuff. And they know how to fuel at the right times so that it doesn't burn them out doing the work that they need to. Bob, there was a stat that was run, Gallup, they do so many of these polls, right? That overly competitive environments actually are linked to higher stress and 60% more turnover. So you've got to make sure if you're bringing competition, it's to fuel, not to burn out your people.
Yeah, I mean, look, pacing is key, right, Chad? Like we've got to be in tune with our team and know, look, because even inside of your own team, there might be certain individuals that just aren't that type, and maybe we don't force them in, or we don't make them competitive in the same way that we would a Dara on our team, who just is obsessed with being number 1. Yeah, don't pace yourself, I would say. Like a lot of here's something fascinating though around pacing yourself competitively. And this is this is data that came out of all these competitions we've been running here recently with Ben. So I'll just use the 5,000 example. I got a few other, but I'll use the 5,000 dials example. So they were doing these over 75 days. And what a lot of people did is they said, all right, I'm going to divide it by 75 days, and I'm just going to make the 75 calls a day that it takes to get to 5,000, whatever that number is. And some people said, no, I'm actually going to do a slightly higher number of dials, but I'm going to take a few days off. So you had every day just dividing 5,000 by 75. You had other people that said, no, I'm going to take, I'm not going to do it 20 of the days. I'm going to take 55 of the days. I'm going to do 100 calls over. And then you had people that would go and they would just burst in. They'd do 700 dials in one day and then nothing for a week and a half. And then they do 500 dials in a day and nothing for 3 days. And then they do 200 and nothing for a week. So you had 3 distinct sets of people, and almost everybody fell into one of those sets because there's not really many other ways to do it, right? The middle group had the best results.
So that would be the 55 example.
It wasn't like I would have maybe expected that it was the people that did it every day, just a consistent number. But those people, I don't know if they just got burned out. It was the people that had a routine set out. There was consistency there. Maybe it was 5 days a week they were making the calls and they were making 100 a day, but they were giving themselves those 2 days of break. That group performed the best. The worst performing group was the one that just bursted in, did 300, didn't do anything for a week and a half, bursted in again. And I think intuitively we can all understand why that would have been
not finishing a marathon, right? They're going to sprint, they're going to be walking, they're going to sprint, and the turtle's going to beat the rabbit in that, or the tortoise is going to beat the hare in that race.
Yeah, and there's all sorts of you never made 300 dials, all of a sudden you make 300 dials today. I guarantee your last 100 are not very quality because you're exhausted, right? So don't burn out, you guys. You got to pace yourself even inside of competition, as it were in this case.
All right, let me recap the first 5 and hit number 6 as we are sharing with you 6 lessons for healthy competition. 1, compete with yourself first. That is, if we only gave you one lesson, that's it. Number 2, recognize when competition starts to become toxic. Okay. 3, learn from your rivals. 4, harness competition for team growth. 5, fuel, don't burn out, pace yourself. And number 6, celebrate the process, not just the wins. Bob?
Well, I mean, if in most competitions there's only one winner, there's a whole bunch of, quote unquote losers, right? But again, I don't think those people lost if they got on the field, Chad. So we're celebrating, the small wins along the way. We're celebrating the fact that on the other side of this competition, I know the scripts now when I didn't know them before. You almost have to go into it with an eye for what you hope may happen beyond just that thing at the end that would signify a win, if that makes sense.
Right. Absolutely, right? You might not get the gold medal, yet that doesn't mean you don't put up a PR, right? It just meant somebody was faster, stronger, whatever, flipped better. That means the Soviet judge decided to, be mean like they always did in the 80s. Whatever it is, folks, remember, you got to celebrate the process, not just the win. It doesn't just come down to this person won. Because you can be sure during the Win Make Give competition that we're having, Bob will win for best hat. Right? There's nobody who's going to compete. Bob's going to win best hat. So we have to celebrate the process and the fun hats maybe that I attempted to bring to the show or whatever it's going to be. Not just the win.
I'm digging down here. I thought I had a Toronto Blue Jays hat pulled out recently because I was on a call with somebody in Toronto. I don't know. I must have put it away. Sorry, Chad.
That's okay. I have one in the closet over here somewhere as well. Folks, competition is everywhere. Let's make it as healthy as possible.
Get in the game. Get in the game. Go create one if you're not experiencing any of it, because I think at the end of the day, Chad, it's healthy. It should be healthy. And we gave you some guidelines to make it so.
Yes, because when you are better than who you were yesterday, imagine who you can be tomorrow. There you go. Until our next episode, folks, as always, do good.